First, though, it is time for a couple of holy mackerel stories in today's news. You know who loves President Obama? Canadians. If we ever wanted to annex Canada, it would probably be our best shot right about now. Because if Obama asked right now if we could annex them, I'm not sure they would feel like they could say no. The American president arrived in Ottawa today on his first trip abroad. The Toronto Star reports that thousands of American flags greeted him. Canadians wearing Obama T-shirts, Canadians with signs that said, "Yes, we Canada." Obama mania on sale as street vendors and local shops hawked all manner of Obama fernalia. There were bus trips organized for Canadians who lived in neighboring cities. There were rallies at churches. There were celebratory concerts. You know, despite differences on NAFTA and Afghanistan and all sorts of stuff, our president was received rather more than well. Now, it used to be sort of a tradition that the American president's first trip abroad would be to Canada. George W. Bush changed that tradition when he decided to go to Mexico as his first trip abroad instead. It was not until after George W. Bush was reelected in 2004 that he dared venture north of the border. Remember how that went? Bush was greeted by thousands of Canadians as well, but they weren't waving flags and selling collector plates. They were protesting against his visit, fighting with police, getting arrested, doing things like driving alongside his motorcade route in a truck plastered with signs that said, "Bush is a war criminal." Our next scheduled news story from Canada will come next month when President Bush returns for another visit with our neighbors to the north. He will give his first post-White House speech in Calgary. What do you think the odds are that Canadians will be outside that speech holding signs that say, "No, we can't-a-da"? I'm sorry. It took me a long time to come up with that. All right, finally, do you remember when Dick Cheney set his office on fire? He set his office on fire after he shot his friend in the face, but before he put himself in a wheelchair. It was December 2007, and a room in the Eisenhower Executive Office building that was being used by then Vice President Dick Cheney mysteriously caught on fire. We still do not know how, or more importantly, why, but hundreds of people were evacuated, and officials said at the time that that fire caused significant damage. Spooky, right? Well, there has since been another fire in that same building. I know! This one turns out to be not as spooky, but still. Ben Smith has an interview at Politico.com today with Peter Orszag. He's the director of the Office of Management and Budget. In an interview that's otherwise totally about management and budget, there is this one very important detail about Mr. Orszag's office. In Orszag's first weekend at work last month, he was there on a day it was about 33 degrees in Washington and snowy. And in a side room in Mr. Orszag's office at the Eisenhower Executive Office building, Mr. Orszag found that this fancy room had a big marble fireplace. It was a chilly day, new office, big fancy fireplace. There was wood stacked in the fireplace already, so he lit it on fire. He just lit a few logs. He describes them as being there neatly stacked. Smoke alarms started going off a few floors up because the Secret Service had apparently blocked the building's chimney. Dope! Turns out that the Secret Service had capped the chimney, but we don't really necessarily know why. The smoke alarms went off upstairs. Everybody had to be evacuated. The bottom line here is that we still do not know how or why Dick Cheney's office in that building was set on fire last December, but we do know that Peter Orszag had a really, really embarrassing first day at work.